couple update numbers on what's going on in Island Health that I should share with you while it's fresh in my mind. And under notices of motion, I know I'm not trying to bombard everybody with stuff. I'd like to just put in the topic of future budget discussion format. And I'd like to suggest that we schedule that conversation for a future committee of the whole, but just I'll give you a brief rundown of what's going through my head when we get to the notices of motion, if that's okay with everybody. So with those additions, I'd be asking for a motion to approve the agenda as amended, if possible, please. Moved by Councillor Sandhu. Second by Councillor Gomaka. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. So with that, we can move right down to new business. Not much more to add to the process, except that I don't think there's an expectation to approve anything at all tonight. It's just to further our discussions, as we've just been presented some numbers today. We haven't had a very long opportunity to digest these things. And local government, I found, is always about having sober second thoughts. So I think that we should be scheduling that the rest of the discussions for at least one more day, possibly two. We'll see how things go. And it might not be tomorrow, but we'll see. With that, I'd just like to turn it over to staff to run us through these next set of attachments.
If I may, is the meeting tomorrow canceled?
I don't know, but can we discuss it under new business?
If I may.
Or yeah, at the end.
Okay. I've just got a couple of updates. The one update is I had discussions with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs earlier today, and they indicated that the grant announcements on this new intake wouldn't be made until the spring of 2023. So because I was looking at timelines in terms of when the start date for the project should be, and so I had to get that corrected because I had it starting the fall of this year. So I had to make a change there. And also the other issue is WSP has given us an update on cost. We had originally in 2019 a cost of $7.24 million on the project. Now the numbers come in at $10.1 million. And that's a Class D estimate. They're both Class D estimates, which means it's not exact. The ministry prefers Class C or better. So we have scheduled a meeting with the engineers tomorrow, the superintendent and myself, to try and see if we can get a Class C estimate. So that number could go up still. So I think you have to factor those numbers in when you're dealing with the water or the sewer budget. So with that, I think I will let the Director of Finance proceed.
Yes,
Hi, everybody. Thanks.
Will we be sharing screen tonight?
Okay,
Yes.
if you want to. Do that, just 1 second. Bear with me.
Okay, so everybody can see that now. This was information that was requested at the last budget meeting. This shows for both the water and the sewer fund. Sewer fund is on top. What we've been collecting from user rates and parcel tax, and I've included some larger grants in there as well, and how much the expenditures are versus the capital in the sewer and water funds. So this information is showing from 2015 all the way to 2021. 2021 numbers, though, you have to remember are finalized. as we're still, I'm still in the year-end process there. So you can see in the water fund, it was in 2019 that we started budgeting for the water treatment plant. And you can see the 3 years that that's been operational. And the little red numbers on the top show what the water and sewer parcel taxes were. So in 2016, the sewer fund parcel tax was $100. It was increased in 2020 to $150. And the budget discussions from yesterday, we were proposing it be increased to $150. In the water fund, it was increased from 100 to 140 in 2016. And then in 2020, it was increased to $200, sorry. And then in 2022, we're proposing an increase of to $300, an increase of 100. So I'm presuming this was the information you were looking for. I've also shown below what we have in the sewer capital and the water capital reserve. Not a lot of money there. And what we have in the sewer fund and the water fund surpluses. Of course, these are also subject to change because we have not, as I have stated before, completed year end for 2021. So any questions on this?
Okay, start with Councilor Wamaka, then Councilor Sandhu.
Thank you. Can you just explain on the bottom of that sheet where it says sewer fund surplus and water fund surplus? Is that what we have in the bank right now, so to speak?
Yeah, so to speak, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councilor Sandhu.
That includes receivables too, though. It's not all cash.
No, and it's not final either at this point.
Councilor Sandhu.
Oh, thank you. No, I just wanted to thank Ms. Gill for this. This is exactly what I was looking for. So I really appreciate the information. Thank you.
Councilor McGonigal, go ahead.
Thank you very much. So when I look at the surplus funds, I'm wondering if any of that can be utilized into the reserve fund. Could transfers from the surplus go into the reserve fund for future capital projects?
Yeah, the answer would be yes. But it's not good policy to do that because it's always nice to have surplus funds for the rainy day.
And I'm not suggesting we would utilize it all, but for instance, with the increase in Class D estimate, that's a 30% increase in cost from 2019.
Yeah. I can tell you what the cost of the town would be $2.72 million.
Right.
That would take care of the surplus funds.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
And if I may add something.
Yes, please.
Something that council needs to look at is look at comparative numbers in the other communities in terms of their parcel taxes. I think we just focus on the town's issue, but you need to look at Ladysmith and North Cowichan, and you will notice that they range anywhere from just up to $798 for North Cowichan, total of water and sewer. Ladysmith $809 for both. So, and City of Duncan, the combined expenditures for water and sewers in the neighborhood of $4 million. Ours don't even, I think ours is 1/3 of it, if I'm correct, Ms. Gill?
Ours is around 1.2 for the water and one. So we're just at over 2 million. And the City of Duncan's 1 square mile, and they have 4 million in user fees.
Right. So a question comes in my head. Is that just user fees? And if so, is that because of relative to commercial?
Yeah, just user fees.
They're
For the
not,
city of Duncan. Go ahead.
no, you can go ahead, Joe, sorry.
No, for the city of Duncan, I think it's just user fees. The Ladysmith and North Carlton's user fees, we have not factored in the user charge. Just parcel taxes, sorry, but not factored in the user charges.
Thank you. Anybody else so far? Okay, thank you for bringing those numbers to life for us tonight, Ms. Gill. So appreciate that.
Okay, you're very welcome. So continuing on, this is the sewer fund 5-year plan. I have fixed 2026 revenue numbers, as was brought to my attention from Lorna. And as Mr. Fernandez has mentioned, we have moved the grant revenue of 2.2 and 3.1, which were based on the old estimates from 2022 to 2023, 2024, as with the related expenses. So you can see the capital, which was 3.4 yesterday, is only 450,000, and we've moved the expenditures down a couple one year. And when we finalize this, if we have more up-to-date numbers, we can update the 2022 and or 2023 and 2024 numbers. So even with moving that, you can see in 2022, there is only, even with the increase of the parcel tax, there is only a $58,000 surplus for the year. And in the water fund, there's been no changes from what was presented yesterday. And the last page there is just the capital, showing them how we've moved the sewer treatment plant costs, the 3 and the 4.2 million from 2022 and 3 to 2023 and 4. Any questions on these pages?
Those numbers are based on 2019 numbers.
Right.
The sewer project.
So on 2019 numbers, so you haven't updated that to the
No, we
the
haven't
latest.
updated the
No,
new
we
numbers.
haven't.
No.
Okay. So we'll see that in the next version of this sheet.
Yes, after tomorrow.
All right. I'm not, Councillor Sandu, go ahead.
Just a question. So on the first page, Ronnie, with the 2015 to 2021, and then on the last line, there's a budget for 2022. Under the sewer fund for user rates, it says that the budget for 2022 is 573,000, but on Schedule C, it's a different, it's 567 for the budget.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've just lumped in the connection fees and interest and charges into user fees, just to make the presentation simpler.
Okay.
The total numbers do balance 573 to the 573.
Okay, I just wanted to double check that. Thank you.
Okay, no more hands?
No.
Okay, Ms. Gill, you can carry on.
If there's nothing else on this, we can move over to the general fund and review that from.
Capital first, I think.
Yeah, so we'll start with the second to last page, which is the capital budget for the general fund. There we go. So it should say page 12 on the bottom for those looking on their printed copies. So the first item under the general fund for 2022 is the asset retirement obligations. We're anticipating needing a consultant to help us complete that. So we budgeted 25,000 for that. Computer equipment, 15,000. The development cost charge review came back. The consultant charges, the RFP came back at 36,000, so we've bumped that up from 2021. The Emergency Operations Center is going to be located here at the Town Hall. That's budgeted at 50, and there is a $25,000 grant that will come back to us. The hazmat inventory has been rebudgeted from 2021. Hopefully we'll complete the Town Hall renovations, and that'll be needed probably at the Mildred Child. And we also have Mildred Child $60,000 for the demolition of that building and some upgrades to the property there. The Town Hall renovations is budgeted at the 2.6. So that is the total general fund capital, 2.796. Moving on to CLEC. We've got some flooring that we've rebudgeted for 5,000. There's roofs that are going to be done at the CLEC Center for 60,000. That is covered by a Fire Smart grant. And we're rebudgeting the 5,000 for the water system. There's electrical that needs to be done out there. The fire department budget was previously presented to council and discussed with the fire chief. I don't know that we need to spend any time on that unless anybody has questions on this or anything else on this page.
No hands?
No, Christine?
I had a,
Oh, Christine, go ahead.
thank you.
Councillor
Just
Sunday.
under the fire department for the Meads Creek fencing, it's still in the, from 2021. So that'll kind of just carry over until decisions are made on other property. Is that correct?
Yes. correct.
Yeah.
So
He's hoping
nothing's
not,
being- Yeah,
not yet.
Like
He's
that's-
hoping, yeah, sorry.
I know, I'm sorry, gosh. Go ahead, please.
He's hoping that he won't have to do this at the location that they are at now. And that, so it's been being delayed until he can, as long as he can.
So there's no timeline from the CVRD then, in writing, so to speak?
Verbally, yes.
Verbally, yes, okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So next we have the Public Works capital budget. He's going to be buying a multi-use truck for Public Works, 125,000. This is covered by the equipment reserve. Annual paving program. There's a couple of streets we have in mind for paving this year for 175,000. There's a budget of 125,000 for the Public Works office and yard. There is 25,000 in replacements to the truck shed and 100,000 because the roof there is in very bad condition and needs to be replaced. Sidewalks are 60,000, small tools 5,000. Stormwater planning grant also rebudgeted from the prior year for 15,000. There's a $10,000 grant coming back on that item. Storm upgrades for Arbutus and transit shelter upgrades for 110,000, which is also 19. There's a grant coming back for almost all of that, not quite, but 90% or so. And moving on to Lakeview. There's going to be some resurfacing of the sites, which is rebudgeted from last year. There is a storm there that needs some attention, so it's causing some flooding on the back of some of those sites. 10,000 for that. The floating walkway repairs is being rebudgeted from last year. And new for Lakeview this year is washrooms. The manager is looking for more washroom facilities. In the parks budget, the footbridge is in immediate need of replacing the flooring there. Not flooring, but the boards and the decking needs to be replaced. Marina Park dock repairs, we're rebudgeting the 5,000 from last year. Riverside Park, washroom, these are going to be washroom improvements for 50,000. Saywell Park is also roofing, and part of that is in part covered by a grant program. And at the town square, 10,000 for restaining the totem pole needs attention, as well as the stage there. So that brings the total capital budget for the general fund at 3.8 million. Just over. Any questions on the capital?
Just a quick question in case things have changed since the last conversation. The floating walkway repairs, is that dismantling?
Taking it away, dismantling, yes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Vomaka?
Thank you. Is the footbridge, is that the one that's goes across to the duck pond?
Yes,
Yes?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Sandy?
Thank you. Under Lakeview Park, I know the last few budget years I've brought up about some money going into kind of cleaning up the beach area, doing some trimming and whatnot, just to refresh. It's been many, many years. And I'm just wondering if that is a capital expense, or is that under just Lakeview Park maintenance type of thing with under Public Works?
We'll be
operational.
addressing lots of that cleanup with our operational funds.
Okay. So is there an opportunity for discussion on that? And I've asked the last 2 years also, like for council to do a walkthrough at Lakeview, just to get an understanding of what's needed, what's overgrown and what needs to kind of be cleaned up. So I'm just curious if there's still a possibility of a discussion on this for this budget year.
I guess that's entirely up to council, or whatever you might be proposing. In our strategic plan for 2021-22 is develop a plan for improvements to Lakeview Park, and it has in brackets grant dependent. And I'm looking at that document right now. So, you know, I would suggest that if you have if particular councillor has something in mind that they propose, you know, we're talking budget now, so propose a number for discussion to get the discussion going. Or perhaps Mr. Smith could give us an outline of what is being planned to work with under operational. Would that be a good start?
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Smith.
Just a couple comments, actually. Under the operational, under operational funds, what we're intending on doing is pruning and grooming different areas of the beach. And of course, we only could take so much down, as we all know. We're also going to be adding more sand to the beach. And those were the basic repairs that we were looking at. And we also would like to make some small improvements under operational to the washroom that's on the beach, because it's old and it needs some restoration, but it doesn't fall under the areas of capital. The actual washroom that we want to bring in is kind of like a portable washroom that I mentioned over different meetings, where we'll bring something in and it'll be an additional washroom for the campers, and that'll be placed up top. So we'll do as much pruning and grooming as we can. And, you know, that does fall in our maintenance budget for the park, and we have to take care of that.
Councillor Sandu, go ahead.
And if you could refresh me, what is the projected maintenance budget for 2022 for Lakeview?
For Lakeview?
As you know, I've been trying to put it under public parks for many, many years and pass it on to Jazz, but I haven't been able to be successful with that.
Well, between contracted services and
Yeah.
materials and supplies, you've got about $30,000.
Yeah. And usually some of the maintenance that's going to be done down there is done by one of the tree services locally. And we've been doing the back part almost every second year for, taking some down. And also we had the Fire Smart program a year and a half ago, which really helped a lot in the campsite area. So this year we're intending on spending most of that money that we do for the tree service in that beach area, subject to working within the riparian zone. So we have, we can do it under operating budget to make it look a lot better. There's no question. And it's in repair, disrepair. I agree with the council.
Can I follow through and just ask a question? Just
Yep.
Something that Mr. Smith just had made a comment on was, is there a reason why Lakeview Beach is not under parks? In the sense of maintenance and whatnot, like under public works.
I'll leave that to staff to.
Well, that I don't need an answer. I'm just putting it out there just because it is just one of the areas in the community that is really utilized, not just by our residents, but by outside the community. And I as I say, it's overgrown and it needs a refresh. It's a beautiful piece of property, but when you're in your campsites and that, you can't see anything because everything is just so overgrown. So that's just my only comment on this. And it's under the strategic plan. So I look forward to that conversation.
So, being as how, this budget we're looking at tonight is produced by staff. I don't see a plan for improvements brought forward by staff. And I think traditionally that's what we would have to do. And noting that it is on the strategic plan, I would expect that when we discuss that at committee of the whole, we're going to decide, is this going to happen or not, or we take it off our plan? And what I'm hearing from Councillor Sandu, that there's at least one member of council, and I think myself would agree, and maybe some staff would like to see improvements, but we need to have that full discussion and then come up with a plan. What are our expectations, I guess is what we're saying. And do we need a consultant, or are we going to leave it up to staff to come up with a plan? We need to get there, and because we can't just produce this plan off our cuff. And I know that. And I know, Councillor Sandu, you've been asking for probably about 6 months. We've been trying to plan that, but I think winter got in our way and COVID got in our way and all those kind of things. So that's unfortunate. I think we've all had to put things on back burners for that, but I think because it's on our strategic plan, we need to react to it. It says 2021, 2022. So we need to get on with that. Okay. Those were my thoughts on that. Anybody else?
I'm going to speak up. I see you perusing, but you probably don't see me. And when we go through the budget, the presentation by staff is the core budget and with supplementals. So we are most opportune to afford some increases in that if we wish. Given the fact that it does reside in the strategic plan, I think it's important that we go have a look and see what would entail. And we've been saying it for a while, and as you say, we've not had an opportunity to go there. But outside of that, to look into the future on electrification and of some of the sites that don't currently have power. I think we had talked about that previously as well. But before making those decisions, I think it's important that we do go have a look.
Yes. So, and I'm suggesting that now is not the right time, but possibly when it dries out a bit. Mr. Smith, could we give direction to staff to set a date and have that communicated through the CEO on a day and time? I think it's probably daylight savings times would be better, and probably after some folks get home from work. It's a good time, or possibly on a weekend. It might be nice to take a nice sunny stroll on a Saturday morning or something. So maybe we could look at that in March or April. That's great.
And if I may continue, it would negate the increase in this year's budget for those services that Councillor Sandu was talking about. If we wait till March or April, we'll already have approved the budget and move forward, but it could be implemented into a future budget year if that's the case. So looking strategically at what improvements are required short-term and long-term, and then project the funding that's required for that. That's not to say that operationally there can't be some cleanup in there, and I think Mr. Smith did mention that was the plan this year, and see how that transpires and move on from there.
Yeah. Yep. Sounds like a good way forward. And I just want to make sure also, I think Councilor McGonigal tried to say it, but I'll say it too, because I don't want to stop anybody from putting forward a motion saying we increase the maintenance budget by $100,000 for Lakeview Park. That wouldn't be my intention, but I don't know. Well, I won't predispose what members of council might be thinking at this time, not having seen the final outcome of this budget. But there's still time if somebody wishes to do that. Councillor Bomaka.
Thank you. Just a thought. I know I don't have the exact figures, but I know that last year the staff budgeted $263,000 for, where is it? Sorry, for revenues for Lakeview. And there was actually, I think, an increase of 40,000. I could be wrong. I can't see. So obviously every year is what I'm getting down to is Lakeview does make a profit. And then we all know that those profits end up over at the Collect Center. So with the COVID relief funds, I don't know how much of it went in to the Collect to cover those expenses this year, and quite possibly would this year. So can those funds not somehow, that the Lakeview Park, because it's basically a business, is there any way that what the money that it does make as a surplus be put into a reserve fund specifically to be kept for improvements to Lakeview Park? Just questioning and throwing it out there.
Member of staff can answer that.
Obviously, that is something that can be done. I think that maybe we should finish the budget, and then if that is the desire and wish of council. But the operations of the Lakeview Park and Education Center are together. So and we've always treated it that way. To put it just for Lakeview into reserve doesn't make sense when the money isn't there. It's being spent. It's not. It's earned at Lakeview Park, but it's a deficit position at the. But I see what you're saying. Just for this, yeah. I would think it would be better not to do that, but that's the decision of council.
Mr. Fernandez.
Yeah, I think you have to always budget conservatively. We have no idea what we're going to make. So based on just the guesstimate, we shouldn't be going out and spending money. But if you want to increase the budget to the operational part of it, then that would mean that's what you have to do. So at the end of the day, it's got to come from somewhere. And I think this notion of using revenues, maybe revenues that you might earn to go out and spend it, makes not a lot of sense, because then it will also mean that will reduce the overall requirements for the revenue. So you will have to then increase the taxes to match that. So it's not simply a case of stealing money from revenues. You've got to then make it up in your tax revenue.
Yeah, and another little bit of history back. I remember Council of the Day several years back asked for Lakeview Park and Couch Lake Education Center to be shown together on the sheets, so that basically so in the minds of that Council of the Day we could reconcile the losses using money from one to come up with a net total. So at one time they were separate. Now they're grouped together partially with revenue to show that result. And that's was why that happened. And that's where you started your line of questioning. So definitely a discussion for after the budget, if we want to put that on a future agenda. And I suggest that you send that in next time we have a call out for agenda items, which won't be long. All right. Is that everything? Oh, Councillor Sandy, sorry.
Just regarding like Lakeview's is an asset to the town, and it's money needs, and whether it's this year or not, I like the idea of moving ahead with visit, looking at our strategic plans and looking at what Councillor McGowan's improvement, short-term, long-term, but the conversation has to happen. This conversation has been going on for many years. The Lakeview campsite is becoming overgrown, and the beauty is there, but it's not there. It's not being shown to how beautiful that facility is. And we are full every summer, and that's revenue, and I appreciate that. But I do hear feedback from people on the state of it. And so in my opinion, this conversation, I'm not going to let this go. I'm going to keep having this conversation, whether it's now or, the next number of months, but we can't just ignore it. It doesn't get groomed itself, and we have to put some money into it down the road and get it back up to par. And that's all I have to say.
That's good. And that's a good way to say that it is on the next regular committee of the whole meeting. So let's have that discussion there then, and
what's the topic of the beach area cleanup?
Move it forward.
Can I make one extra comment?
So just back to Joe for a second. We did put the strategic plan on the next committee of the whole agenda. So that's on the first page, so it's naturally going to come up. But if you want to separate it out on the agenda, I'll leave that up to you. Mr. Smith.
Just a quick thing. Can everybody hear me clearly? Because we only have two computers on. Can you hear me?
Yep.
A couple of quick things, actually. About every second year, just so you know, it does cost a lot of money to make sure that park looks reasonable, and also take away dangerous trees. So that's about $5,000 every second year, just so you know that. And we decide which trees are dangerous, and we get the specialists come in and do that. That's not necessarily beautification, but that's still, there is a cost there. And I think the discussion about, although I was kidding about, well, I wasn't kidding, we've talked about parks before, and over the years, I have said on numerous occasions that, you know what, really, we're looking after the second busiest park, or the busiest park in one of the busiest parks in the valley. And I really think there is merit to somehow taking some of those, not taking the funds, but charging some of the extra costs of beautification to that swimming area of the park, not the whole beach, that swimming area in particular. I think there is some merit for discussion on that, quite frankly. And that may not be popular with the superintendent, because you think, oh, it's out of my budget, but that would be my preference, because we do look after everything from garbage to the washroom down there, extra sand, and and so on and so on. So it's good to hear council talking about looking at it at least. And I realize we're restricted by budgets, and all of the departments, we are concerned about keeping the budgets as low as possible. So it does have an effect.
Well, Mr. Smith, these things are driven by the management of these facilities. So I look forward to the doing the walk and coming up with a plan. After all, you'll be the person that writes that plan, I'm sure, with our input. So I suggest that, well, it's up to management to decide who's going to be there, but the committee of the whole meeting in February, this is on our agenda. So, all right. Any more hands while I scroll across the screen? That'll be a name for this procedure. Okay, staff, Ms. Gill, go ahead.
Okay, so we covered the capital budget, bringing you back to the total number. It was 3.861 million. And if we go to page 2, which is a summary of all the expenses for the town. Okay, you can see that 3.861 million under capital on this page. So that is the largest expense on this page. The only other one is the transfer to other governments, but that's an in and an out. We collect that revenue and it flows out. All the other expenses, general government, fire department, police, all of those, well, not police, but all the other expenses, police is another in and out. We went over them yesterday and they're summarized here. The only other additions are, like I said, the debt and the capital charges and the transfers to the reserve funds of 140,000. And those transfers are to the parks, the fire department equipment reserve, and the municipal hall reserve. That's what makes up that 140. Any questions on this page? And if there's anything else that council wants to review in the expenses from yesterday, we can go through them if that is the wish of council.
Don't see any hands going up here. Oh, Councilor McGonigal, there you are.
Thanks. I'd just like to touch on the sewer parcel tax, if I may. Given that the announcement is not until 2023, I would be more in line with an incremental increase this year and next year instead of the full amount this year. But that's just me. I'm thinking of just delaying, since it's not in the capital project list this year, won't be announced. That would just be my preference.
Councilor Omaka. Councilor Omaka, you're muted. There you are.
Here. Yeah,
Yep.
I was on the same lines with Councillor McGonigal after I heard this from our CAO. And we were going to do 150 and then 250 for the sewer fund, and then do the water fund from 2 to 3. And so if Councillor McGonigal is willing to make a motion to make that $50 increases on both, then I will second that.
I think we'll just let it ride for now.
Let it
until we
ride?
Get to the, I mean, I just put it out there for interest, and it may alter, it will alter the numbers. So
Yeah.
I don't want to put any extra work yet until we come to a conclusion on whether that's something everyone is interested in. Because what I heard yesterday was the majority are in favor of the increase, the total increase. And if that's the way we go, then so be it. But I would like it severed on the parcel tax increases, so we could vote on that before the whole budget. Just so we can sever those two and discuss it at that time. But for now, I think I just wanted to put it out there for consideration.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, I thought yesterday too, when I saw this, I thought, wow, that's quite a big chunk all at once. And then we had to remember that we had no increase last year either. And I think had we continued to make a small increase each year, then maybe it wouldn't be a bitter pill to swallow. But we'll have to have the discussion, I guess, whether we make it a little more palatable with a small increase or whether we bite the bullet and take the big increase. But I'm more concerned about the budget for after the 2022. Do we keep going up every year, or do we wait years that we don't make the increase and then do a larger jump again? So I think we have to talk to the finance and come up with a plan for yearly increases. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Fernandez, your hand went up for a moment there.
No, I was just looking for a recommendation from Councilor McGonigal. That was it. I thought he had the numbers in mind.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm with Councilor McGonigal. We shouldn't skew the numbers yet, but we'll definitely. I agree with that. We should separate it out and deal with the two issues one-on-one. But the one thing, as soon as the words were spoken, I said, "Well, what happens in 2023 when the next council comes on and they get apprehensive at the increasing parcel taxes, whoever they may be?" So that's a fear that I would have getting there too, because I feel we're already behind it, and we've got to catch up. So, but still, that conversation will be had once a motion gets made, when it gets made, and we can work on that and come to a consensus. So, Councillor Sandhu, you had your hand up.
Thank you. So when we look at like the sewer capital reserve fund, we have $1,755, and it was council's decision last year because of COVID not to keep the increase as low as we could. And even 2020 discussing this, we were a little nervous about increasing at $50. But at the end of the day, we need to build up our reserve fund. And we will, and the other thing I'd like to say is if we're going to get really deep into this, because I think we all have opinions on this, I'd like to structure just a time where we can just focus on this discussion and not be kind of flip-flopping from one thing to another. Is just maybe one meeting for an hour is just focus really on this, because the information that Ms. Gill gave us, it really gives you insight as to how little we've increased it over the years, but the expenses are going up. It's just like our personal households. We may not be bringing more money in, but expenses are going up. So we have to be able to balance that. So it's no different here. So at this time, I have no opinion, yes or no, on how much to increase it, but we do need to increase it. And we can't just do the status quo anymore. So thank you.
Okay, this might be an opportune time for me to offer the suggestion that I thought of today. Mr. Fernandez, will we be seeing the net effect? I'm assuming it's going to show an increase when we get there of the 2022 budget over the 2021. Will that number be exposed today percentage-wise?
For the taxes for the general fund?
Yeah,
the general tax increase, yes.
Tax increase.
Indeed. Yes,
Okay,
indeed.
so given that, which is an important number, and given the parcel tax, which is a very important conversation, I'm wondering, I was going to suggest Monday be a good day to meet and start with parcel taxes and then move on. But with the discussions, quite happy to have 2-3 more meetings if that's what we need to all be comfortable about this and make sure we get everything on the table. So I don't know. I'm going to put it out there, just a quick show of hands. Maybe would Monday be a good time to sit after digesting this over the weekend, or do we want to go right into it tomorrow?
You want to go into the revenues portion first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see what the net effect of that is.
Go for it.
Okay. So this is the revenue section, with the numbers have been prepared with a 4.5% increase into the taxes. So they increased from the 2.289 in 2021 to the budgeted 2.392 in 2022. So that is the tax increase. And with that increase, we are basically breaking even with a small $1,800 deficit. So this budget takes into account the building reserve, all the conditional grants that we had, all the revenues for the education center collect, the fire services. So all of our revenue from all the sources are listed here. And the total budget there is 10.486. And the expenses are almost the same. So we're coming to almost a zero budget with that increase and with those capital expenses. So if we're looking to add more services, we need to add more, a bigger increase. If we're looking to add more capital, we should be looking at a higher increase. So, or I guess we could go and slash some of the capital budgets if we're looking for a smaller tax rate increase. That's where we come into the decision making.
Okay, Ms. Gill or Mr. Fernandez, could you refresh all our memories what dollar amount it is, 15, 20,000, that reflects a 1% increase or decrease?
I believe it's 22,000.
22,000.
1% is 22,000. So if you reduce it by 1%, you would be having to cut expenses by 22,000.
Thank you.
So, I mean, you've got to look at the fact that we're doing a lot of capital for a 4.5% in tax increase. We didn't think we could get to this point, but we did. There was a fair bit of staff wrangling on this issue. We had each of the departments looking for increases in their budgets, capital budgets. We were able to trim it down. There was 2 or 3 items that were cut just to keep the budget the way it is at the 4.5.
Councillor Sandu.
Because this meeting was yesterday and then today we're having a meeting and just getting this information, these 13 pages are a lot of information to really go through. For me, it's a little difficult trying to read this. No, okay, that I have a concern with that or a question, right? Like, I'm just finding right now, I'm just struggling, just trying to sit in this meeting because there's just so much I haven't read. And for me to ask questions, I can't just do it on a whim. So I just have that comment.
I have my hand up.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn. Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm being a bit quiet today, but I had a bit of trouble with my computer getting everything up too, and I really need a printed copy, so I'll come in and get one tomorrow. So is there a rush that we have to do these things 3 days in a row, or I don't think we ever did that before, did we? Or that's what I'm asking, because I'm getting overwhelmed here. I've got notes coming up my yin yang, and
well, I think we've done it differently over the years. We've done it at long stretches, short stretches, and over days. So it all depends on council. So it's your wish.
And I'm happy with Monday. If we did one Monday, and tomorrow too, if you want to, but I need the information a bit sooner, just so I can look it through. Even though I'm not an accountant and I don't know anything, it still gives me an idea of what to ask.
All right, so Councillor Vomaka and Councillor McGonigal, are you okay with Monday?
I'm okay with Monday. I'm leaving tomorrow for the mainland, so I will not be available tomorrow.
Yeah, Monday works better for me as well. That way we can come in and get a hard copy and put our notes beside that. And just anecdotally, the 4.5% increase is a total revenue increase of $99,000. So people get so perplexed by the percentage increase. You have to anecdotally think of what the total financial dollars of that is. And I'm gonna, with your indulgence,
Go ahead.
just carry on a little bit. So 4.5% increase. We've got utility charges in water, sewer, and garbage. Taxes. We've got parcel tax. So it's incremental increases that are substantive. The 4.5 is not a number that scares me because of the actual dollar figures that does accommodate. It's the other portions that accumulate that could be problematic to some people. The last thing I want to see is us taxing people out of their homes. I know we need to put money in reserve and retirement management and asset management, but for a small community, we struggle with the only funding opportunity we have is taxation. The whole system is skewed on revenues from property owners. It has to be looked at in a broader sense of how municipalities can accommodate these needs and wants of our residents without constantly death by 1,000 cuts, so to speak. And it's not just our community. Every other small community struggles with this as well. So I just wanted to get on my soapbox because Joe did last week, so it's my turn. and don't get me wrong, I know we need this, but I worry about people who have not worked for 2 years, who struggle through COVID, who are still partially employed or marginally employed, that may not have the means to accommodate these increases. So I'm thinking just not for myself, but other people as well.
And that is our job. So Monday sounds like a good day. Councillor Austin, go ahead.
Well, I got to get on my soapbox too. I understand where Councillor McGonigal is coming from, but I really think, you know, I've been told over the years too, we have to take care of our town, its assets, its infrastructure, and we can't leave a mess for the next council. And I know it's hard, but my husband and I are on a very limited income. His small pension from steelworkers is not even indexed, so we'll never change. And we have to manage. You cut out things. You don't go on holiday, or you cut out big presents and stuff like. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's called life, and I've been through that for many years with different things. I know it's difficult. I don't think people are going to lose their homes over a little bit of this. And I have suggested to some of the people that I know about paying our taxes monthly through online. I pay $125 a month and $75 on the utilities. You don't even miss it, but you haven't got that money there. It's not sitting there, so you don't miss it. And it helps to budget like that. And we pay our insurance that way. When you're on a limited or a fixed income, I hate to use that word fixed, but it is. And even the Canada pension that Gordon gets, I mean, when you get a raise, it's $3.27 a month. I mean, come on, that doesn't even help. So I just want to say, I feel for everybody. I know a lot of people that are on the edge, and I have relatives that have not worked for a while, but you know, we have to get through it. And if people want the town to be run well and taken care of, if we don't pay now, we're going to pay later, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So I think we have to be sensible. And I know it's been mentioned a couple of times about election year, which we shouldn't even think about that right now. We need to be responsible. We're supposed to govern this town until our time ends on October 15th. And I think we have to make the best decisions for the town as a whole, and for everything that we need to do. And that's just me. I'll get off my soapbox now. Thank you.
All right. So in order to provide equal time for everyone, Councillor Vomaka, have you got your soapbox out? And that is in jest. I mean, this is serious conversation. So
I'm gonna say I need a
I'm not making
soapbox
fun of it.
just to, I need a soapbox just to stand on to appear taller.
Me too.
And I do sympathize, COVID's hit, many of us. I'm a one person household income and, business from COVID. I looked at my books yesterday and I'm down 30% in revenue. So yeah, it does hit a lot of people that are a single working household family, that's for sure. But I also understand, right, that if we want the services that everybody needs and at that level, we have to look at those increases. So I guess that's just for us to look at. And yeah, it does mean, going without a few things that you become accustomed to. Can I just ask a question of the Director of Finance? I do believe, is it a 5% reduction in the sewer, water, garbage bill that people pay each year? And is it 5% or 10%? And if so, how much does that equate to?
You're talking about the discount?
The
Yeah,
discount?
the discount.
I can tell you what that. Last year in the sewer fund, the discounts were almost 41,000. And slightly higher in the water fund. Just see it here.
I think you were meaning what it is to the individual, is that correct?
Oh, are you asking per individual or total for the town?
Total to what the town, what I'm thinking of is someone had said to me, well, why do you guys not do away with that discount?
Wow.
And what would that equate into if everybody paid in their regular amount is what I'm getting at. So if we didn't offer any discounts to prepay your bill ahead of time, what would that translate into revenue for the town?
Well, you'd be looking at about, the discounts total about 90,000. So you would be able to just reduce your expenses by that amount and not provide the discount, but it'd be a small decrease in the total bill. Because not everybody avails themselves of the discount. So yeah, I mean, I haven't worked out those numbers, but I could, but I don't imagine for 100,000 over over what the 1,500 bills we send out. Yeah.
Well, people are used to the discounts.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it seems unpopular. People are used to getting that and they really want to see that. And it helps the town with getting the money in quicker to start. It helps with the financing of the town's activities at the beginning of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I guess the net result of all the funds collected and user fees and stuff has to add up to a certain amount, and we have to get it one way or the other. So if we lose the 10%, we have to gain that back in other areas. So 6 of one, half dozen the other. But I think it is a good incentive to get people to pay early.
Can I ask a question?
Well, I'm sliding the soapbox over. Here we go.
I have no soapbox, thanks.
Okay.
So when this was first put in place to people, was the I just don't remember this, was the discount implemented from day one of this billing process?
What meaning?
Like offering a discount if you pay before a certain date?
I think it was the late 1990s that it came into place.
Oh, okay.
Because there was a cash shortage in the town. So
Oh, okay. But it does encourage people to go and pay their bill early when they're looking at saving that. So to me, I wouldn't want to take that away. I agree with Ms. Gill on that. That if we can get funds in sooner. So thank you.
Okay. So I guess I'm going to put 2 feet up on mine for just a half a second, just to say when I'm pondering this over the weekend, I'll be I'll also be looking for ways we can possibly save money too, but being realistic as well. I think the most important things that are going to be on my list of things to not deal with is make sure our water and sewer funds are looked after appropriately, and we've heard staff's point of view on that, and they presented what they think are the right numbers to get to where we need to be. And then I'll look at all the other minor capital and see where there could be possible savings. Maybe not, but I'm going to need the weekend to look things over and decide where I'm going to sit on all the numbers, including the parcel taxes. So I'm looking forward to spending a few hours this weekend with that during a quiet time. Quickly going back to Monday's meeting time, I do have a child with me for the day. Is 5 o'clock an acceptable time for most? Nobody's saying no, so. Oh,
I'm
Councilor
fine.
Mecca?
I'm fine at anytime 4 or after.
Yeah, 5 is fine with me.
Okay, I'd love to do it in the day, but go ahead, Mr. Fernandez.
Yeah, what are you expecting for that meeting? Are you
Well,
looking
we definitely want to have a fulsome discussion on both parcel taxes and come to resolution. And then we'll move to the total budget and see where that discussion takes us after that.
So we will give you the same budget that we presented today.
Mm-hmm.
And we will change the numbers for the water treatment plant because with the updated numbers, so that'll be a little more clearer from council's viewpoint.
Sewer project.
Sewer project, yeah.
If I may, could we look at the sewer fund with incremental increases of $50?
Yeah, that you can decide that on Monday, I think, rather than us telling you.
So, but Mr. Fernandez, I think what might be helpful is if you show us the different alternatives, the different results.
Right. So what are you suggesting?
Well, it
Right now
sounds
it's
like
$100.
Yeah, I think 50 and 100, Councilor McGonigal, would that sound?
I would prefer 50 and 50, but
50 and 50.
Well, we already know the
Yes.
net result of 100, so yeah, 50 and 50, yeah. Gotcha.
And 50 and 50 next year?
yes, 50 this 2022, 50 2023, just given that the project is pushed ahead to 2023.
So you're
Just what
looking at,
the impact would be,
so that's for water and sewer?
Sewer.
just sewer.
Just sewer. And the water would be okay.
For the sewer, could we also have the $100 one on with that also, just so we're clear with the 50/50, the 100/100 each
Yeah,
of
we'll give
the,
you the options. Yeah.
yeah, thank you.
And on the water, you're not looking at any options,
No.
correct? Okay.
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 Anything else from council that they would like to see on Monday's session? No. Okay. Well, this is some of the best discussions I've been a part of in a long time with Townley Couch and budget. I know there's probably been better ones, but I'm glad we're taking our time and some serious things to have our minds on here. Because as I mentioned before, we do serve the public.
That's right.
Okay, if staff doesn't have anything more to that, we have discussed the next meeting. Minister Dix called in an urgent meeting today regarding the status of COVID-19, and it was just for an update for folks on Vancouver Island. So for the Cowichan Valley, the biggest concern they have is they've known where Omicron was going to take us as far as hospitalizations. Well, they had models that they're following along with, as I'm sure you've heard Dr. Henry talk about. But one of the biggest concerns is how it's going to affect the hospital or the healthcare system. So some of the numbers they gave us today, like across the island, there's absent because of sickness from anywhere from 5 to 12% staff absentee within the healthcare system, and that includes doctors, nurses, surgeons, home care support, and ambulatory support folks. So in the Cowichan Valley itself, 8% of the hospital employees are calling in sick on average in the last week. 112 surgeries have been canceled. Surgeries are scheduled to resume and be rescheduled again starting January 24th. And home care, 7% of the workers are reporting in sick, and 13% of the employees in long-term care are calling in sick. So I think the message in the meeting today, and I didn't stay on too much because this meeting was on, but just to get the numbers and I got the gist, just so you know, and you hear how the healthcare system is blah, blah, blah. We probably don't hear that lots these days. There's probably not a lot of criticism, but just so you know what they're up against. They're having to reprioritize. Say, if one area has a surplus, they're trying to find qualified people that can go out and maybe do home support for a little bit and then go back to their regular jobs later. So they're really having to be nimble with where they staff and stuff like that. So record day in BC in the number of people hospitalized with COVID, and I didn't get a chance to write down that number, but I'm sure it's out there somewhere on social media or on Island Health website, but it was a record day today. But that being said, Island Health is not in the top of that crowd when it comes to hospitalization. So, and I also have a briefing document that was a news release yesterday. Did anybody get something from Island Health yesterday? Okay, I'll send it out to you tonight. It'll show you what's happening around the province a bit too. So definitely it's real, definitely it's having an effect. And God bless those people that work in that industry right now. Councillor Sandhu.
I'm sorry, who's on the iPhone? There's a blank box that says iPhone. You. Thank you.
Don't.
Oh, he's expanding his technology skills. And there's no feedback. And he doesn't know where the mute button is. All right, we won't tell him. So I just wanted to give you that update, and if more comes down the pipe, I'll pass it on. But it was kind of weird that they called this emergency one, but I think they really wanted to get that message out. So I'm sure there'll be something on paper coming soon. All right. So anything else there? Okay. Just want to go to notices of motion and the topic that I want to put forward for the next committee of the whole meeting. Hopefully we have time to fit it in next month's. But is the budget process. And I know Councillor McGonigal will have a lot of input on this, and I know I have a fair amount, but there's a model they use at the CBRD where they start presenting things like capital requests and stuff like that early and in midsummer and things like that. So it gives directors a chance to wrap their minds around numbers that are coming down the pipe and will show up in the upcoming budget discussions. And so it's not such a, like we are today and feeling rushed, but we have time, and the sober second thoughts. And sometimes I've noticed a lot of people forget by the time they get to the budget talks, but at least they've had a presentation from staff, and usually it's the department managers and stuff like that bring forward stuff, but they go through their management meetings and they show the council or the board what their wish list is basically very early on. And then the budget discussion meetings are scheduled at the beginning of the year, I think, Mr. Councilman McGonigal. So they're in the schedule already, and that way we can all prepare long in advance instead of having to do a roundtable every time we want to have a meeting. And there's just a bunch of little nuances there that I know when I was there for my time that I found very helpful. And we are not financial experts, and yes, we need more time than just an hour on a screen. And even when we start going through that today, but at the same time, I looked at it like we were being led like kindergarten kids. Well, in a sense, we are in that realm, I think, unless anybody here on council has a a CGA designation behind their name and stuff like that. So I found it helpful. I'd like to have staff look at that model, but that's not for us to decide tonight. But that might be a hint that they could look at it, because I'd like to see that left, a process that's like that left for the next council. That's just my opinion, though. So we'll see. Councilman McGonigal, any words
Well,
on
the one
that?
thing I'd like to see is the core budget, and then supplementals in a priority tier 1, tier 2, tier 3.
Yeah.
That way you can see the impacts of the core budget. So our core is 4.5% this year with all the capital, etc. But that includes the supplementals that were brought forward by management. And I think it's important to sever those off. You deal with the core. You either reduce services or increase taxation to accommodate that service. But I also think it's important that we as elected officials stay in the lane that we were elected to serve our community in. When we reach out and look at other opportunities that should be done by senior levels of government, that impacts everyone. So, it's problematic because we are the ones that live in the community and feel that there is a need to provide that extra service. But when we do that, we're culminating the problem moving forward. So core budget, supplementals, tier 1, 2, 3. So I would look at public works, bringing forward the truck as a tier 1 supplemental, for instance. It's covered by the capital reserve, but that would be something that could be discussed as well. It does work good, and incrementally it will show the total increase as you move through it.
Yes. And another part of what they do there is it would have been helpful. I just, as I've gone through the process for the second time as sitting in the spot, that they also show numbers like the net effect on the average household per 100,000, which is helpful for us to wrap our head around. Councilor McGonigal said the 99,000. That's not a big number when you divide it up amongst all the households in the town of Lake Couch and the business commercial properties. So that's not a real big effect, but $100 in each parcel tax is probably, I don't know what the percentage, right? So is a much bigger effect. So little things like that they do there, I'm hoping that we could possibly adopt that into our process. And it doesn't have to start in June like they do. Their budget is way bigger than what we do. But it just makes things flow a little smoother when we get to this stage and answers questions beforehand. Go ahead, Mr. Fernandez.
Yeah, I guess you're saying that the CBRD budget process is a better process, and
not better. It's you've got to remember that the regional district does over 182 functions, and each one of them is a separate budget.
Yeah.
So all we're looking at is some sort of comparative between core budgets and supplementals that are brought forward and what the impact on taxation is, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to sell the whole group on this tonight, and I'm not here to tell management what's better or not, but there are parts of that worked well, and I can see that they'd work well in the discussions that we have around this table for the elected officials. So the different bits of it. So it doesn't have to be totally adopted or used, but definitely like to look into it and have a discussion at least. All right. So Monday at 5 p.m. it is. That brings us to question period, where we pause for 3 minutes for members of the public, if there's anybody watching tonight, to call in to 250-749-6681, extension 102, or email your question to general@lakecouch.ca. Once again, that telephone number is 250-749-6681, extension 102. The email is general at lakecowichan.ca. We will pause for 3 minutes and come back at 4:55 to see if there's any questions. Okay, it's 4:55. Mr. Fernandez, is your phone ringing off the hook?
No emails or telephone calls.
Okay.
So if I could just, Bob, just to Mr. Fernandez, you mentioned in your conversation that some capital projects had been removed in management discussions.
Yes.
So perhaps they could have come forward as a supplemental request for tier 3 consideration.
We can bring that forward.
And that would give us an opportunity to see what that impact is. I think that's all we were looking for.
Okay, okay.
Currently, they're vetted through management and decided on what comes to us for consideration. So those ones could have had maybe a 3 or 4% impact on tax requisition, and how important they were moving forward in the strategic plan or something could have been something that we might have had some discussion on. That's all we're looking for.
So we'll give you a list of those for the Monday meeting.
And that's not to say that one system is better than the other, because each community works within the means that they have. We don't have a full finance department like the regional district does. We have Miss Gill. And we don't have managers under each direction. So we work within what we do. And I think we do a very good job with what we have. So don't take my comments as any degrading remarks.
I'm taking.
And mine neither. We're only trying to make this better. And from a council perspective, there are some things could be adopted that would save some angst along in the process. Councillor Sandhu, go ahead.
I just want to thank staff again, like from last night to today's meeting is scrambling today to try and get all the information put together, what we requested last night. So that put a lot of pressure, and I just want to thank you because you had only a few hours, and I agree moving forward that we don't have back-to-back budget like this because staff needs an opportunity of time on top of their day-to-day stuff to do to get the information that council requests. So if that can be, you know, in the future discussions, is that we're not meeting in 24 hours, because I find not just for myself, but for staff and just everybody, we need a little time to absorb the documents that you're presenting to us so that we can ask the questions and be prepared. So thank you again.
And would it be possible to have hard copies in our docket for Monday?
Yeah.
If that's possible, that would be appreciated on my end anyway.
Okay, and will this next special committee of the whole agenda be published on Friday with the regular agenda?
Friday, yes.
Okay, and give public a chance to have their traditional look if they want. All right, go ahead, Mr. Fernandez.
I just want to follow up on Councillor Sandhu's comments. We don't get thanked enough.
Jeez.
I missed that. What?
We don't get thanked enough. There's his one and only jab tonight. He's been behaving himself for the past
There's your
2
virtual
nights.
clap.
I'm bringing you chocolates and roses tomorrow, Joe. Okay?
Oh, God. Just couldn't wait, could you? Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, staff, and thank you very much, council. I really am enjoying the process. I'm glad. I think we've come to a natural place where we need to pause and have the weekend and look things over. So thank you, everybody. And we'll see you Monday. Motion to adjourn. Oh, there's a bunch of hands. We're done. Have a great night.
Okay, thank you.